the shadowed heart of Black Ridge, where the ancient pines stretch their gnarled limbs toward a sky that seems to hold its breath in perpetual suspense, stands Tower 5. A weathered sentinel of solitude perched atop a history steeped in dread, mystery, and an unspoken terror that permeates the very soil. I am Roger Johnson, a fire lookout thrust into the abyss of this forsaken outpost, and what I have witnessed within its creaking timbers, beneath its unblinking gaze, and amid the whispering void of its surroundings transcends the boundaries of the rational, plunging into a realm of documentary horror that defies comprehension and challenges the fabric of reality itself. This is no mere recounting of wilderness duty. It is a multidimensional odyssey into a nightmare where the past bleeds into the present with visceral intensity, where the living mingle with the lost in an abyss of cold, unyielding terror, and where every groan of the structure reverberates with the echoes of the unseen. A symphony of the damned that lingers in the air. Join me as I peel back the layers of this chilling narrative, drawing you into a world of spectral whispers, quantum anomalies, indigenous lore that whispers of forbidden knowledge, and a legacy of sacrifice that spans millennia, its roots buried deep in the earth of Black Ridge. Through vivid detail, psychological depth, environmental resonance, and haunting introspection, this tale invites you to peer into the unseen, to feel the weight of the unknown pressing against your own reality, and to question the fragile veil that separates us from the otherworldly forces that lurk just beyond perception. The night of May 17, 2025, etched itself into my memory with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel, a date that would mark the beginning of my unraveling in the shadowed embrace of Black Ridge, a place where time itself seemed to fray at the edges. I awoke in my tent, the thin nylon walls trembling not with the gusts of wind that typically danced through the forest but with an oppressive silence that seemed to swallow the world whole. A void so profound it felt like a living entity constricting my chest with icy, spectral fingers. The usual nocturnal symphony, the rhythmic chirping of crickets weaving their intricate patterns, the mournful hoot of an owl cutting through the darkness, the gentle rustle of leaves stirred by a breeze that carried the scent of pine, had vanished, replaced by a stillness so absolute it pressed against my eardrums. A silence that was not merely the absence of sound but a presence in itself, heavy and suffocating. My heart thudded audibly in that stillness, each beat a solitary drumroll against the oppressive quiet, a reminder of my isolation atop this rugged promontory where the ridge rose like a scar against the horizon. The air inside the tent grew thick, saturated with an unseen presence that seemed to pulse with malevolent intent, and instinctively, I fumbled for my flashlight, my fingers brushing against the cold, sweat-slicked metal as a sound emerged from the darkness. A slow, deliberate unzipping of my tent flap. It was not a violent tear or a hurried tug born of panic, but a methodical ascent, each tooth of the zipper clicking with a patience that chilled my blood, as if guided by an unseen hand with infinite, malevolent intent. A hand that knew no haste because it had all the time in the world. "Who's there?" I called, my voice slicing through the silence with a steadiness I did not feel, a fragile mask over the tremor that coursed through my limbs and set my teeth on edge. The flap fell open with a soft thud that echoed in the void, and there, framed against the starless expanse, stood a figure. Its silhouette mimicked humanity. 2 legs, 2 arms, a head tilted slightly as if in contemplation, but the proportions were wrong, the edges blurring like mist caught in a dying wind, the form shifting subtly as if refusing to solidify, a shape that seemed to defy the solidity of the world around it. I swung my flashlight upward, the beam cutting through the darkness to illuminate a face I knew with a jolt of recognition that sent a shiver down my spine. Paul Lee, my predecessor, whose disappearance 3 weeks prior had been dismissed as a hiking accident, a commonplace tragedy in these rugged mountains where the wilderness often claimed the unwary with a silent, indifferent hunger. His features were gaunt, his cheeks hollowed as if drained of life by some unseen force, his eyes vacant pits that seemed to absorb the light rather than reflect it. His skin pallid with a waxy sheen that suggested decay, a visage that belonged more to the grave than the living. Yet it was his voice that struck me deepest, a hollow echo, as though spoken from the bottom of a well or a crypt buried deep within the earth, resonating with a chilling depth that seemed to emanate from the very roots of Black Ridge, a sound that carried the weight of the grave and the promise of something ancient. "Join us in Tower 5, he intoned, the words reverberating with a resonance that suggested a plural invitation. A chorus of voices lurking beyond the veil. A collective presence that hinted at horrors yet unnamed. Panic seized me as I scrambled backward, my sleeping bag twisting around my legs like a web spun by some spectral spider, its fabric clinging to my sweat-soaked skin with an almost sentient grip that seemed to tighten with each frantic movement. "You're not Paul?" I stammered, my mind racing to reconcile the impossible, to find logic in a scene that defied it. My thoughts a chaotic whirl of disbelief and dread. The figure tilted its head at an angle no human neck could endure, a grotesque pivot that cracked audibly in the silence, its movements fluid and unnatural, as if guided by a force unbound by flesh and bone, a motion that suggested it existed beyond the constraints of the physical world. "We are cold, Roger. So cold," it whispered, the plural "we" sending a shiver down my spine, a declaration that suggested not one entity but a multitude, a chorus of the taken bound together in some frigid purgatory where warmth was a memory long forgotten. Terror surged as I shouted for Daniel, my partner stationed in the tower above, my voice cracking against the night, a desperate plea swallowed by the void, its sound lost in the infinite silence. The thing remained still, its gaze fixed upon me with an intensity that felt like a physical weight. But then, as if dissolving into the ether, its outline bled into the darkness, retreating into the trees with a motion that was not walking but flowing, passing through branches rather than parting them. A liquid grace that mocked the laws of physics and left the foliage undisturbed, a movement that left no trace but the memory of its wrongness. When Daniel's flashlight pierced the gloom from the tower railing, his voice calling down with concern, I lied, muttering about a bare sighting, unwilling to confess the madness that gripped me. The image of Paul's hollow face seared into my mind like a brand, a vision that would haunt my waking hours. Sleep became an impossibility after that encounter. The forest's silence mocked my every attempt to find rest, its stillness a taunting presence that watched my every move. I barricaded my tent with my pack, wedging it against the flap with trembling hands, the fabric straining against the pressure, and sat with my back against a rough-barked pine, its texture a grounding force against the surreal, flashlight in one hand, knife in the other, the cold steel a meager comfort against the unseen. The night stretched endlessly, the beam of my light a fragile circle against the encroaching dark, a barrier that seemed to shrink with each passing hour, and I felt the forest's gaze heavy upon me, its stillness a prelude to something ancient and malevolent lurking just beyond the perimeter, a predator waiting for the moment of vulnerability. As dawn's gray light filtered through the pines, casting long shadows that seemed to writhe with intent, as if the trees themselves were alive with the entity's influence, I made a decision. Whatever haunted Tower 5, I could not face it alone, nor could I abandon Daniel to its mercy, leaving him to the same fate that had claimed Paul. Packing my gear with trembling hands, the weight of my decision pressing against my chest like a stone, I radioed headquarters, spinning a tale of equipment malfunction, power system failure, backup generator compromised. To secure an early pickup, the lie slipping from my lips with a practiced ease born of necessity. The response was immediate, a lifeline cast into the abyss. A helicopter would arrive at 0800 the next morning, its promise a faint glimmer of hope. Turning to Daniel, his skeptical eyes meeting mine in the dim light of the tower's office, the air thick with the scent of old wood and tension, I resolved to uncover the truth together, for the empty tie that wore Paul's face was not done with us, and it knew my name with an intimacy that chilled my soul, a knowledge that suggested it had been watching long before I arrived, its awareness a thread woven into the fabric of the ridge. The seeds of revelation were sown that same evening, a quiet moment of reflection that would unravel the fabric of my understanding and expose the threads of a deeper truth. I reviewed my digital recorder, a tool I used to capture the ambient sounds of the forest for my personal log, a habit born of solitude that now served as a window into the uncanny, a portal to the unseen forces that prowled Black Ridge. Rewinding the file from my dinner preparation, the hiss of my camp stove cutting through the stillness, the clink of my mess kit against the tin plate resonating like a solitary chime, the soft crackle of a fire I had built to ward off the chill that seemed to seep from the ground itself. I turned up the volume, expecting nothing more than the mundane symphony of my isolation. Beneath those familiar noises, however, a faint undercurrent emerged. Whispers, overlapping in a discordant chorus that sent ice through my veins and rooted me to the spot. A sound that felt like fingers brushing against the edge of my consciousness. Roger Johnson. The voices were not present during my cooking. I would have noticed their eerie cadence, their insistent repetition of my name like a chant from beyond the grave, a litany that carried the weight of the lost. Yet there they were, etched into the recording like a ghostly imprint, a testament to a presence I could not see, a sound that seemed to emanate from the very air around me, as if the forest itself were speaking. I yanked the earbuds out, my breath catching in my throat, a gasp that broke the silence, and spent the night against that rough-barked pine. The forest's gaze heavy upon me, its silence a prelude to something ancient and malevolent lurking just beyond the fragile circle of my light, a predator biding its time. In the tower's office, a cramped space filled with the musty scent of old paper and the hum of a flickering fluorescent bulb that cast jittery shadows on the walls, I confronted Daniel with my findings, his initial skepticism giving way to unease as I played the recording, the device trembling slightly in my hands. The static crackled, a prelude to the hollow voice of Paul Lee, pleading join us in Tower 5. A sound that seemed to carry the weight of the grave, its resonance echoing off the wooden walls and burrowing into my skull. Together, we delved into the Forest Service database, my supervisor credentials unlocking sealed records that revealed a chilling pattern. Tower 5 had been rebuilt 3 times since 1932, each reconstruction following a spate of unexplained disappearances that littered the archives like dark stains, a trail of vanished lives erased by bureaucratic indifference. 27 people, their fates reduced to the sterile label of presumed wilderness accidents. Their cases signed off by Valeria Martinez, our district supervisor, a woman whose signature appeared with unsettling regularity, a mark of complicity etched into every file. The realization struck us like a thunderclap. Someone had known, and the cover-up stretched across decades. A silent conspiracy buried in bureaucratic files, its weight pressing down on us as we scrolled through the digital pages, the screen glowing with the ghosts of the past. Our investigation deepened as we ventured to the evidence room, the clerk's suspicious gaze following us like a hawk circling its prey, her eyes narrowing as we presented my credentials, the paper crinkling under my grip. The air was thick with the scent of dust and disuse, a mausoleum of forgotten stories, as we retrieved Paul's personal effects. A wallet worn thin at the edges, its leather cracked like aged skin, a set of keys that jangled with a hollow sound, a notebook filled with meticulous wildlife observations in his precise handwriting, a phone with a dead battery that seemed to mock our efforts with its silence. Among these relics, we discovered a USB drive hidden within a tear in the wallet's lining, a clever concealment that spoke of desperation, a final act of defiance against the entity that had claimed him, a secret preserved against all odds. The video it contained, dated 3 days before his disappearance, showed Paul in the tower, his face gaunt under the harsh glow of his headlamp, his eyes darting nervously as if sensing the camera's gaze was not his only witness, the light casting deep shadows that seemed to move of their own accord. His voice trembled as he documented an entity that mimicked voices with uncanny accuracy and moved with a liquid grace that defied the solidity of the room, a presence that seemed to flow through the very walls. The footage captured a shadow, darker than the night itself, a void within a void, coalescing into a form, its chorus of whispers demanding his surrender, a sound that seemed to rise from the floorboards themselves, a dirge from the depths. The screen went black abruptly, leaving us in stunned silence, the weight of our discovery pressing down like a physical force, the air thick with the unspoken question of what we had unleashed. A Pandora's box opened in the heart of the tower. We confronted Valeria in her office, a sterile space dominated by a desk cluttered with files and a window that framed the distant pines, their silhouettes stark against the fading light. Her initial denials crumbling as we presented the evidence, the USB drive trembling in my hand. Reluctantly, she produced a yellowed logbook, its pages brittle with age and stained with the sweat of frantic hands, containing the final transmissions of 11 firefighters trapped on Black Ridge during the 1932 Great Cascade Burn, a conflagration that had scarred the land and the souls who fought it. The entries began with the clinical precision of coordinates, wind directions, and fire movement, a record of duty amid chaos, descending into madness with each passing hour. Knocking sounds from an empty north side that echoed through the night like the tolling of a ghostly bell, voices calling the names of the dead with a clarity that chilled the blood, a presence inside the tower wearing their faces with a grotesque mimicry that blurred the line between life and death. The handwriting grew erratic, the ink smudging as panic took hold. The final entry a barely legible plea. "It's inside now. It wears their faces. God help us." A cry that faded into the void. No bodies were recovered, the official report claiming they perished in the fire. Yet the tower stood intact, the flames halting at its base as if repelled by an unseen force, a testament to the entity's dominion. Subsequent rebuilds perpetuated the cycle, and the Forest Service, aware of indigenous warnings labeling Black Ridge the thin place, a boundary where otherworldly forces breached our reality, a concept whispered in tribal councils for centuries, its origins lost to time, maintained the tower for its strategic wildfire coverage, sacrificing lookouts to a pattern that claimed a life every few years, a ritualistic toll paid to the unknown. Paul had been briefed on the unusual history, a vague warning cloaked in bureaucratic language, yet the entity struck with unprecedented speed, outpacing the protocols designed to protect him, a predator unbound by human foresight. Armed with this knowledge, we returned to Tower 5, Valeria joining us, her guilt a palpable presence that hung in the air like a storm cloud, her tenure marked by the loss of 4 souls under her watch, each disappearance a weight on her conscience that she could no longer deny. The tower's attic, a cramped space filled with the musty scent of insulation and the creak of settling wood that seemed to groan with the weight of its history, yielded Catherine Winter's journal, a 1972 lookout whose meticulous notes chronicled the entity's behavior with a scientist's precision and a survivor's desperation. Her words a lifeline cast into the abyss. She documented its preference for isolation, its cold presence that dropped temperatures by 15 degrees in minutes, a chill that seeped into the bones and lingered like a phantom touch, and its ability to mimic loved ones with uncanny accuracy. Its voice a cruel parody of memory that twisted the knife of longing. Her entries grew urgent, detailing whispers in the wind that carried her name like a summons. Objects moved in her absence with an intent that suggested sentience, a deliberate rearrangement that spoke of a mind at work, and a figure at the tower's base breathing in her mother's voice, a sound that tore at her resolve and threatened to unravel her sanity. Her final entry, a desperate plea cut short by a jagged line that trailed off the page like a life interrupted, confirmed she never escaped, her fate sealed by the entity's hunger, a predator that thrived on the solitude she could not escape. As night fell, the whispers returned, dozens of voices, Paul's hollow cadence, Catherine's soft plea, others lost to time, their identities swallowed by the void, calling our names from the tree line, their dark figures numbering more than ever before, a legion of shadows that seemed to pulse with intent, their forms a testament to the entity's dominion. We barricaded the tower, pushing the heavy metal desk against the trapdoor with a screech of metal on wood, wedging chairs under the doorknobs with a force born of desperation, maintaining constant communication via satellite phone as a defense against the entity's isolationist grip, a lifeline that tethered us to the living world. The entity breached the locked room, its form shifting through faces of the taken. Paul's hollow gaze, Catherine's empty eyes, an older man's weathered features etched with lines of sorrow, a young girl's innocent smile twisted into a mask of despair. Each transition a grotesque tableau, pleading for us to join its cold embrace with a chorus that echoed off the walls and burrowed into our minds. Through the phone, we disrupted its hold, naming the victims. Paul Lee, Catherine Winters, Robert Gaines, Maria Suarez. Each acknowledgement a blow that weakened its grip, its form wavering like a mirage under the weight of memory. A flicker of recognition that seemed to stir the trapped souls within. As dawn broke, it retreated, its plea for help lingering in Paul's voice, a haunting echo of consciousness trapped within, a sound that lingered in the air long after the light returned, a reminder of the lives suspended between worlds. Thomas Bailey's Anomalous Phenomena Division arrived, their equipment, a symphony of blinking lights and humming sensors that filled the tower with an otherworldly hum, capturing the entity's quantum nature, a being existing between dimensions, sustained by isolation and anonymity, its essence a void that defied thermal imaging, a blank space where life should have been. The experience left us shaken, the evidence of breakthrough in understanding this ancient predator, a puzzle piece in a cosmic game we barely comprehended, its rules written in shadows and silence. 6 months later, we fortified Tower 5 with a containment grid, its electromagnetic barrier repelling the entity's advances with a low hum that vibrated through the ground, a pulse that seemed to resonate with the ridge itself. A newly discovered cave, its entrance hidden beneath vines and moss that clung to the stone like a shroud, revealed pictographs dating back 3,200 years, their carved lines depicting rituals to communicate with or free the taken, a testament to ancient struggles that suggested a path forward, a hope buried in the past. Yet, the entity persisted, its voices a haunting reminder of the 27 trapped souls, their pleas carried on the wind like a requiem, a dirge that echoed through the trees. New protocols, two-person teams, constant monitoring, hourly check-ins offered protection, but the question remained, could we rescue those lost, or were they forever bound to the thin place, their essences woven into the fabric of the entity's being? In Portland headquarters, a modern edifice of glass and steel that contrasted starkly with the wildness of Black Ridge, its polished surfaces a stark contrast to the rugged earth. I briefed Rangers on the buddy system, the weight of our mission pressing upon me like a physical burden, a mantle I could not shed. The conference room buzzed with the rustle of notebooks and the murmur of voices. Yet beneath it all lay the unspoken tension of our encounter, a current of unease that threaded through the air. The entity, a quantum anomaly feeding on disconnection, awaited its next opportunity, its patience a testament to its ancient lineage, a predator that had outlasted civilizations. With Daniel, we vowed to uncover its origins, its birth in the thin place, its sustenance from the isolated, and liberate its victims, armed with evidence, determination, and the fragile hope of redemption, a flame flickering against the darkness. The forest watched, its pines swaying in a wind that carried the faintest echo of those lost, patient and ancient, as we prepared for the battle ahead, a war waged not just against the entity but against the isolation it thrived upon, a struggle that pitted human connection against the void. Are you brave enough to explore the eerie depths of Tower 5's history, to stand beneath its creaking timbers as the whispers call your name with a chilling familiarity? Or does the thought of being watched by an unseen presence send chills cascading down your spine, urging you to flee into the light? Could you withstand a night alone in the thin place, knowing the voices might weave your own memories into their cold embrace? Or would you seek the safety of connection to fend off the abyss, clinging to the voices of the living as a shield against the dark?